All right, today we're diving into something that is deeply personal to me, which is how ADHD shapes my creative process. But I'm not just going to tell you about it, I'm going to show you. Okay, see these unfinished paintings? A lot of people might see failures, projects abandoned, or inspiration lost. But for those of us with ADHD, they tell a different story. All right, let's start with this. ADHD isn't a quirky personality trait, and it's about so much more than being distracting. Essentially, it's a neurodevelopmental condition that impacts how our brains process information, regulate emotions, and manage tasks.
But here's the interesting part. Research increasingly supports the theory that ADHD brains are a little extra wired for creativity. We naturally excel at divergent thinking, which is the ability to generate multiple solutions to a single problem. So while neurotypical folks might have a tendency to focus on a linear path, our brains are constantly jumping between ideas, which gives us the opportunity to make connections that others might not see.
This happens because of how dopamine works in the ADHD brain. Dopamine is the neurotransmitter that helps us feel motivated and rewarded. ADHD brains tend to have lower dopamine levels, which means we're always chasing novelty, that aha moment that sparks creativity. Let me give you an example. Last fall, I left my job. Most people would probably take some time to rest, reflect, and plan carefully, or pivot into trying to find a new job. Instead, my ADHD brain saw that empty calendar as an infinite canvas. In 6 weeks, I wrote and published my first book. I launched a new business with an 80-page business plan, and I started this YouTube channel.
It sounds impossible, but this is the magic of hyperfocus. Hyperfocus is when you are so immersed in a task that everything else disappears. Researchers compare it to a flow state, where the ADHD brain suddenly feels in sync and creativity flows effortlessly.
But hyperfocus isn't always easy to control. It only kicks in when we're truly interested or excited about something. And while it's powerful, it can also lead to burnout when we pour everything into a project without pacing ourselves. Another key part of ADHD creativity is emotional intensity. ADHD heightens everything: excitement, frustration, joy, and self-doubt. This sensitivity can feel overwhelming, but it also makes our creative work deeply emotional and resonant. Studies have found that people with ADHD are often driven by their emotions, and that emotional depth helps fuel artistic expression. It's why our work often feels raw and vulnerable. For me, it's like every brushstroke or sentence I write carries a piece of that emotional energy. So let's look at these unfinished paintings again, or the half-written stories or abandoned ideas. They're not failures. Instead, they're just evidence of how my brain works, always generating, always imagining, always searching for the next idea. Think of them as seeds. Not all of them will grow into full plants, but each one is part of the creative process. Research shows that this chaos is often where the most innovative ideas are born. Here's what I've learned about turning this chaos into something productive. Over time, I've had to develop strategies to help me harness the strengths of my ADHD while working around its challenges, in particular during the Adderall shortage. So I'll share them here with you. I keep notebooks, sticky notes, and digital tools everywhere to capture thoughts before they vanish. Out of sight really is out of mind for ADHD brains.
Big tasks can be really overwhelming for me and can trigger a sort of freeze response that makes it hard for me to start on a project that I'm actually really excited about. So I break them into bite-sized steps, always. A really oversimplified example of this is, instead of write a book, we'll start with start an outline of the book.
When I really free myself to follow my curiosity, I stumble upon ideas I never would have planned.
Timers are a lifesaver. I use them to stay on track, and also specifically to remind myself to take breaks, to rest my brain, to eat a snack, and to have some water.
Here's the truth. ADHD makes us natural visionaries. We see connections others don't. We're not afraid to challenge the status quo. And we can dream up ideas that are bigger, bolder, and more innovative than anyone thought possible. Yeah, it's messy. Yeah, it's intense. And yeah, sometimes it feels like trying to catch lightning, but I think that's also what makes it beautiful. My book, my business, this channel, none of these would exist without the unique way my brain works. ADHD doesn't just shape my process, it shapes the way that I see and interact with the world. And I think that that perspective is my biggest strength.
If you're a creator with ADHD, or if you just relate to this different way of creating, let's talk. Drop a comment and share your experiences. How does your brain approach creativity? What are your unique patterns? I would love to hear your story.
Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share for more content about the creative process. And check out my book, You Are Creative for Yourself to Free the World, for more ideas on how you can strengthen your creativity. Until next time, keep creating, and remember, your process doesn't have to look like anyone else's to be valid.